This episode is sponsored by Save Your Memories. For over 4 decades, they have been helping people just like you to view, share, and preserve their memories by transferring them to a digital format. Now you can transfer your photos, videotapes, DVDs, and old movie films to relive again. Visit us at www.saveyourmemories.online today.
Hello and welcome to Success Tracks, where we explore the journey to success that people take, and they're all different roads to success, and there are many different ways to get there, and many different things make up that journey. And I love talking to people that are successful because they bring so much inspiration to my journey. By listening to things that have worked for them. And that's what this podcast is all about. Hopefully, in listening to each of these journeys, you'll find things that may work in your life and in your profession. In this episode, I'm pleased to welcome Frank Cubillo. He's better known in this area, in the Hampton Roads area, as Frank Sings Frank, or Frank of Frank Sings Frank. And he's certainly successful. He's all over the place, and he's been a good friend of mine for many years. And I am pleased to welcome him to Success Tracks. So, hey, good morning. Thanks for joining us, Frank.
Good morning, Rory, and thanks for having me on your show, your podcast this morning.
Okay. All right. So you have a really different, you're a singer, obviously, and there's a lot of questions about that. But you have a really interesting beginning, because I know you. I've heard much of the story before. You want to talk to us about your life and how it led to this business?
Sure. I'd be glad to. Well, first of all, a lot of people need to know that I was born in New York. So as a Frank Sinatra singer, one would say, okay, how close to Hoboken, New Jersey, where Frank Sinatra was, did you live? I lived right across, I was born right across the river in a place called Brooklyn, New York, and then raised on Long Island. Went to a Catholic school, went to a Catholic military academy on Long Island called LaSalle Military Academy, and those 4 years really shaped my future because they gave me a moral compass and a good education to get started. I tried to get into the service academies because I was very interested in that, and I failed to get in because my SAT scores were not good enough. So I ended up starting college at St. John's University in New York, for those of you who are familiar with that area. Good school, but I was not ready for college. Basically flunked out after one semester. So after that, my father said to me, he said, well, son, college doesn't look like something for you. What do you want to do with your life? And I said, Dad, today I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And he almost fell off his chair. You got to remember now, the year was 1971. We were still in Vietnam, and that war was, largely unpopular. But my father had hoped that I would go to military school and then go on to one of the naval service academies. But that wasn't in the cards for me. So I ended up enlisting. He was supportive, but a little worried because it was Vietnam era. But I went in 1972, January of 1972. And by the time I got through all of my training as a Marine, enlisted Marine, in the signals intelligence field, which is a very odd field for a Marine to be in, but it was very, very important nonetheless, and very technical. And I was very, very fortunate to not have to go to Vietnam, because by the time I finished my training, all the Marine Corps units were pulling out of Vietnam. And so I ended up going to Japan for my very first tour of duty and skipped Vietnam. And then I had a wonderful career in the Marines. I don't want to belabor it, but I started off as a private, and I worked my way up through the ranks from private to staff sergeant to warrant officer, 1, 2, 3 ranks, and then I became a limited duty officer. In the Navy and the Marine Corps, that's called an officer who does that from enlisted to officer. It's called a Mustang, and that's what I became. And again, all the years keep ticking on. I passed 20 years, I went to 30 years, and by the time I had 30 years, I was a lieutenant colonel, and we were stationed with my family. Of course, I want to mention that I've been married now for almost 48 years. I met my wife in Florida while I was going through my initial training, and that's a different story altogether. It's a pretty storybook romance because she was only 14 and I was 18. She wrote to me. For 4 years, we stayed in touch through letters, the old-fashioned way, and we got married in 1976, the bicentennial, in Chicago. That's where she was from. Anyway, getting back to my story, I was a lieutenant colonel then. We were stationed at the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island. I was going through the Navy War College course there. It's a master's degree program. And my wife gave me this beautiful ring. I'm not wearing it right now. I should be. But it was the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor of the Marine Corps. And she was hoping that, hey, you're 30 years, when are you going to get out? And I said, sure. I said, I'll just finish my school here and any obligations there, and then I'll get out. Well, sure enough, a week later, after she gave me that ring, I got selected for the rank of colonel, which is a pretty good rank, pretty high rank in the Marines, and I was thrilled. But I had to go home and tell my wife that if I accept this rank, I have to stay for 4 more years. And she said, well, I really hope that we could go back to Virginia Beach because we owned a home here. I was stationed there at Dam Neck prior to that, going to overseas tour. So I ended up, getting very lucky because the Marine Corps sent me back to Hampton Roads to the U.S. Joint Forces Command in Norfolk and Suffolk. And I told my wife that we were going back, and she was delighted. So I accepted the rank and the promotion, and I did 3 more years. During that time, I went overseas to the war, to Iraqi Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and I went to Kuwait and Iraq and fought in that war for only 6 months. And then after that, I was thinking I was going to get out. My wife was hoping I was going to get out, but I got an offer to go back to Dam Neck, to the intelligence training school there, to be the commanding officer of a new command. And I took that command and stayed until 2009, which gave me a grand total of almost 38 years of active duty in the Marines. My wife was delighted because we didn't have to move, and so we planted our roots firmly here in Virginia Beach, and we've owned a home here since 1995. So that I retired, and the big question is always, what are you going to do when you retire? And my wife said to me, well, what do you want to do, Frank? And I said, I had a great time serving the country for 38 years, and I'd like to do something very different. She goes, oh yeah, what would that be? I said, I'd like to be a professional singer, entertainer, and sing Frank Sinatra songs. And she almost fell off her chair. She said, no, that doesn't make any money, brother, and you need to go to work until you're at least 62. I was 56 when I retired from the Marines. So dutifully, happy life, happy wife, I did what she recommended, and got me a job as a government civilian and worked for the Navy as a government civilian for 6 years until I turned 62. But during that time, I started formulating a plan to be a local Hampton Roads singer-entertainer. And I picked Frank Sinatra as my target because I grew up in New York. My parents played this music all the time. And I was so inspired by Frank Sinatra's music and his success that I said, I could maybe take some of this music and sing it, myself. So I discovered that there's karaoke tracks, and I started putting these tracks together and started singing. And on the side, I was still working for the Navy, and on the side I was taking gigs, working at assisted living homes, and whoever would want to give me a job, private parties, private events, and things of that nature. And I even auditioned to be a singer at the oceanfront in Virginia Beach as part of the program that they call Live on Atlantic now, but back then it was Beach Street USA. So I auditioned in 2010, and I was accepted, and I started becoming a street singer during the summers on 21st Street and Atlantic Avenue in front of an Italian restaurant called Giovanni's. And that's where I started getting very popular because people started noticing me then. And I really started getting a lot of confidence that I could actually sing like Frank Sinatra. And I want to make a distinction here right now because I'm not a Frank Sinatra impersonator. Notice I have no blue eyes. I don't have any hair. And I won't wear a wig. So I always wear a fedora of some sort. That's been my signature. And if you can see in the background there, you can see a live cutout of me. I'll go the right way here. And that's me with my tuxedo on. And that's been my signature for the time I've been doing this. So essentially from 2009, 2010, I started working on the side until I retired in 2000 and, 2016. I retired fully as a 62-year-old man, retired and with a new lease on life, and I went full bore with Frank Sings Frank. I got a website, I got on social media, and I started getting a lot of gigs. I auditioned for a local company called Rockstar Booking. They're a booking agency, and they were able to give me lots of gigs. I started performing at the Town Center in Virginia Beach during the summer months. I got more gigs in 2018. I actually teamed up with the local orchestra here in Virginia Beach, the Tidewater Winds. It's a nonprofit winds orchestra. And the maestro there, John Brewington, gave me an opportunity to sing with the band back in 2017, was my first time. And I've had the opportunity to sing and perform with a full big band. When I normally perform, I perform over pre-recorded backing tracks, karaoke, but they're very good quality. And it gives me the opportunity to sing with the full sound behind me, and it's great. And I have good equipment. So that got me launched into a different world because I was working with live musicians, and I was just very happy to do that. So I know I'm rambling here, but
well, that's okay. I was just waiting for a break to jump in, but
yeah, just why don't you guys, because I can keep going, but there's a lot more things that you might want to ask me to.
Well, I just wanted to say,
in the right frame of mind there.
I've heard you with Tidewater Winds. It's great. It really is to hear. It's like a big band.
Well, in fact, as I recall, I hired you to video the concert, which that concert I have on social media and on YouTube. Yeah. So you did
we did a multiple camera shoot with
that.
Yeah, with live editing and everything. We did that, and it was a lot of fun. Actually, it was the first time I had recorded an event like that. You know, we do shows and plays and things like that, but I had not recorded a big band kind of a thing, and that was very, very entertaining. So you have had a tremendous military career.
Yes.
And I went to military school for a few years. But and I know that made a huge difference in my life, personal responsibility, all that kind of stuff. And I would assume that being in the Marines, being a Marine, I think that probably gave you a good foundation to have the tenacity to take on this new thing of starting a business from just totally different. Do you think?
Oh yeah, I mentioned it earlier. The school I went to on Long Island was LaSalle Military Academy. It was a Catholic all-boys Army ROTC boarding school.
Yeah, Hargrave Military Academy.
Yeah, military academy, and the hope was if I graduated from there, I could go on to maybe Annapolis or West Point or Air Force Academy. And as I mentioned, I didn't have scores high enough to get in. I was put on the waiting list, so I just didn't go. And when I went to a civilian college, as it were, it didn't work out. But yes, those 4 years, I say this to everybody that I ever talk to about, how did you get to be the type of person you are? What formulated it? Of course, I have great up parents. My parents, I have to give them credit. And my father died when he was only 46 years old. I was just married at 23, and my mom only lived to 62. So I had my parents early in life, and they imprinted on me a lot of things. But that, in combination with the 4 years at the military school on Long Island, and I have to tell you, I'm still in contact with most of my high school graduates, and we only had a 65 man graduating class. That's how small the school was. And I keep in touch with those guys. But that was a very significant seminal point in my life growing up. And it took me into the Marine Corps. It made it easy because I had the military background from school. The Marine Corps boot camp was very challenging. I'm not going to lie, but I was able to be successful in the Marine Corps. And Marine Corps is based on discipline and hard work. And if you work hard in the Marine Corps, just like in any other field of endeavor, you're going to be successful. And I became very successful in the Marine Corps. I was promoted 13 times. I went from private all the way up to the rank of colonel. And not many people get to go that journey. Of course, I had to give up 38 years of my life, but I would gladly do it again.
Well, it sounds like your wife had a big influence in your career, because every other sentence was she said no, or she said yes, or she wanted to. So there's always a woman behind the successful man, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Cindy, my wife's name is Cindy, and a lot of people know her here because when I first started, I needed somebody to, work the backing tracks for me and the sound of my equipment, and to allow me to grab the microphone and go out into the audience or on the stage and perform. And I needed somebody, and she was one of my first sound technicians, if you will, sound mixers. And then it migrated to my daughter, who is now 31 years old and a nurse. My wife Cindy has been my biggest supporter. And as I developed the business of Frank Sings Frank, the Limited Liability Corporation (LLC), there's a lot of paperwork, there's tax paying, there's a lot of accounting things. And she took on that job for me, and she does all the paperwork for me. The only thing I do is sing and get the gigs, and everything else is hers.
But you do that very well.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, you've been doing this Frank Sings Frank thing for 15 years, correct? And I know that you sent me some questions that I could ask you, but you've blown through all the questions. You've answered everything I had, basically. But one that you said is that you're 71, was it?
Yep, I just turned 71 last week.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, not last week, but this year I turned 71 as well. How long do you think you're going to keep going with Frank Sings Frank? I can tell you that, as you know, we were talking beforehand, you look like you're having a blast up there.
Well, there's a couple of things. That's a good question. And my wife and I, we don't do anything without, talking to each other and making it a group decision. Both of us together. We talked about that, and what I told her is that as long as I can sing, and that's a big thing. As long as my voice is still good, I can still hit those notes. I don't suffer from cracked voice or whatever. I'd like to be able to continue on as long as I can. She said, let's take a look when you turn 75 and see where you are there and make an assessment there. That's a good, breaking point or milestone, if you will. But I think I'm energized. I stay in shape. As you know, I work out all the time. That keeps me going. I've been blessed with good health, and I know a lot of music. As you know, I didn't mention this to the audience yet, but I have studied Frank Sinatra's music for years, and the influence from my parents, because they played this music all the time. and that got me very interested in Frank Sinatra. He recorded about 1,100 songs in his lifetime, over 6 decades worth of entertaining and recording. And I know, not bragging, I just know by heart over 400 of those songs. And I have music for much of that, backing tracks. And so when I do a show, I bring a lot of variety. And I also have the ability to sing other singers from that genre. You know, Tony Bennett, Dean Martin, Bobby Darin, Nat King Cole.
I was going to say you sung some of those in the show that I
Yes,
saw recently
yes.
at Town Center. There was a little bit of that. Well, let me ask you on. I mean, I'm not trying to get rid of you or anything in this area, but how come you haven't looked at Vegas or something? I was out in Vegas, and I know we went to a Neil Diamond tribute. We went to a Billy Joel tribute, and there's always these tribute bands and everything and all. That would seem like a good fit, at least show wise, or maybe America's Got Talent or something like that.
Yeah, I have thought about all those things that you just said, and I've actually been invited to go to Las Vegas and other places to see how I would perform. But I'll be honest with you, and this is the answer that I give everybody. I served the Marine Corps for 38 years. I was separated from my family for many of those years, and it was pretty challenging. I enjoy being home and coming home after work every day, and to my family, my wife, my children, my grandchildren now, 2 grandchildren. And so I don't feel the need. And here's the other thing, Rory. Over the years, since I've been doing this now for 15 years, I've built up a pretty good repertoire of music, and I think I've convinced people that, yeah, I'm the area Frank Sinatra guy now. I'm not an impersonator, as I said, I'm a tribute singer. And I don't see the need, I don't feel the need to go anywhere else. I'd rather just stay right here in Hampton Roads and be the Frank Sinatra guy here in Hampton Roads.
Well, we're glad to have you. Let me ask you then: is there any other place you sing other than the Frank Sings Frank thing? I mean, besides the shower, maybe.
You mean
church choir?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, because it seems like I'm always singing, because, as you mentioned, church, I've been a member of Ascension Catholic Church in Virginia Beach now since we moved here in '95. We became members of that church. And
I know Ascension.
Minus 3 years that we went overseas to Okinawa and then came back. I've been here, Virginia Beach. So I've been a member of that choir for a good 25 years. And I'm a tenor in that choir, and I'm also a cantor, which I sing the psalms and lead the congregation through the mass with all the singing. So yeah, that's part of it. And this is a little funny little thing about singing in a church choir and being a Frank Sinatra tribute singer, is that my choir director, who's a wonderful lady, Diane Nestor, she told me, "Frank, I love your voice, but don't you ever sing like Frank Sinatra when you're singing the psalms and the music of the church music." And I said, right, I have to do my church voice, so to speak. And then the other interesting thing that happened to me about 13 years ago is through my church choir, there's a guy named Chuck Mulkey. He started to sing music from the 60s with backing tracks like I use, and go to assisted living homes here in Hampton Roads and entertain. And then he asked me to join him one time, and then that grew to his sister-in-law and his brother, who was did all the sound for us, and we started a group called Vocal Group Fond Memories. And that group grew over the years to add another male singer. So we had 3 male singers, and Sandy, who was our alto, and then I added, by my recommendation, my neighbor next door, 2 doors over, a wonderful soprano, and a lot younger lady, but she's absolutely fantastic. Married with three children, Alice and Handy, and we have a local group called Fond Memories. I think you've seen us before, and we are very popular here in Hampton Roads as well. And we sing music from the 60s, the 50s, the 70s, that kind of thing too. It's great. So I am always singing. And how long I'm going to do this, only God knows. I mean, but we're gonna make an assessment 4 years from now when I turn 75.
Well, I know you certainly enjoy doing that. So let's talk about your success. Well, I mean, obviously you're successful. Can you name maybe 3 things that you think led to that were key factors in that success?
You mean starting a business, you mean?
Yeah. Well, your success in life or your success as Frank and your Frank
3 things. Well,
Either
I
one.
mentioned one of them, and I have to say my parents. I have to go back to my parents and my roots growing up in New York. They were very loving people, and they loved music, and so they heavily influenced me with Frank Sinatra's music and dancing because they love to dance. So when you see my shows, I like to dance. I love to have people come and dance too. So I would say my parents, my time in the military, to include the 4 years at LaSalle Military Academy, and my military experience, because the Marine Corps teaches you discipline and a lot of other things, but discipline. I think you have to have discipline. And here's the third thing. It's an often used word when you talk about something that you really love to do. It's called passion. And I have, as you know, Rory, I just have a passion for this music, and I have a passion for entertaining people and making people happy. Every time I do a wedding or a private party, it's an intimate setting, and it's always wonderful. So I would say my parents, my military upbringing, which also includes the years I've been married. My wife is very, very influential to me, and the passion that I have for the music, and the determination I have to keep this music alive. It's amazing to me how many young people out there are discovering how great this music was from Frank Sinatra and that era. So that keeps me going too.
Well, that's great. Okay. Now, people can find out more about you through your website, which is
FrankSingsFrank.com.
What could be any simpler than that, huh?
FrankSingsFrank.com. Make sure you have the S in there.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm certainly hoping that a lot of people will check you out and maybe find you here in the Hampton Roads area. And it will be a really good time for them. Is there any last thoughts before we close?
Yeah, I do have one more thing. I really didn't mention, and I should, because he has been this individual has been a very big influence to me musically. His name is Dr. Gad Brosh. He's 87 years old, retired OBGYN doctor in Norfolk, his own business, his own practice rather, and he is an accomplished jazz pianist, and he's from Israel. He's got a really cool, there's a guy you could probably interview and have a really interesting story about. But he's been playing the piano all his life, and he asked me 8 years ago if I would like to perform with him. And so I have been performing on and off with him at the Norfolk, at the Maine. You'll see me there when I perform there at my shows. And so he has helped me get out of the box, so to speak, by performing as a tribute singer with backing tracks to live music, and that helped me also with the Tidewater Winds and the Virginia Beach Symphony. I forgot to mention that the Symphonicity. I actually performed with them 2 years ago in this at the oceanfront. We had a big 2-hour Frank Sinatra tribute show with them too. So. Yeah, Dr. Gad Brosh, I'd like to just give him a shout out because he's been a big influence to me. John Brewington, the maestro for the Tidewater Winds, and Daniel Booth, who is the maestro for the Virginia Beach Symphony, better known as Symphonicity. So shout out to those 3 gentlemen.
Let me just ask you, if some people are looking at this and they're ending one career and starting another, and they're wondering, should I go for this? Should I, maybe they have a passion for something they've never had the opportunity to do or whatever. Do you have any advice for those people?
Yeah, absolutely. I said the word passion and I mean it. You have to have passion for something. And in my case, it was always the music, even though I was a military guy my whole life. But I always had that on the shelf. I always kept that idea of being an entertainer singer on the shelf. Someday I would get the opportunity to do it. And for those of you who are leaving your main profession for many years and wondering what's next, is there a next, can there be a next, and the answer is absolutely yes. And it doesn't have to be a singer. You could do anything. You could write a book. You could learn a foreign language. You could learn a musical instrument and go that direction. There's just so many. There's endless things that you can do, and people are very hesitant there, or maybe afraid to start something. But I say go for it, because you never know. I was very fortunate and very blessed to be able to do what I do, and I'm still feeling very blessed to do what I do. And my advice is just go for it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being with us today, and I will look forward to seeing you on the stage here somewhere in Hampton Roads here before the end of the year, and wish you a great deal more success.
Okay, thanks, Roy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for joining us today. If you have a business, or you are successful in a business, or you're successful in life in a particular area and would like to be featured on Success Tracks, give us a call, or you can go to the website successtracks.com or call us at 757-271-8687. We look forward to hearing from you. And with that, we're out.